From 1965 to 1977, Srila Prabhupada traveled the world preaching, working tirelessly translating his books, while at the same time keeping in constant communication with his disciples through personal letters. It is through these letters that we are able to derive life lessons, material and spiritual, as well as appreciate Srila Prabhupada's loving care for his disciples. Let us now hear from one of those fortunate devotees who personally received correspondence from His Divine Grace.
I write letters every month to Srila Prabhupada. I was giving him monthly reports on the zone in which I was in charge of. GBCs all had their own zone. He called us zonal secretaries. So I had the East Coast. And I would send a report to him every month. And he would reply about the subject matter. So this is what I wrote to him, and this is a report. It's several pages. I'm only going to read the part which I feel is relevant today. So we had gone to the festival, the yearly festival in Mayapur, and during the festival there was a time on the calendar where the devotees were supposed to go down Bhaktisiddhanta Road to the Bhaktisiddhanta Thakur temple. And that was on the agenda. Later I found out that Srila Prabhupada didn't know that, but it was on it, so therefore I went down with all the rest of the devotees. And so we went there, and there was a long table set up with white cloth covering the whole table, and some of Srila Prabhupada's godbrothers were sitting behind the table, and one of them, Sridhar Maharaj, stood up and said this. Well, he's thanked us. He said, I wrote to the letter to Srila Prabhupada. I said, Sridhar Maharaj thanked us for coming to Mayapur from all over the world to, quote, encourage them in their work, end quote. So I found that to be a very leading statement, because we had no experience of helping the Gaudiya Math in their work. What work were they doing? So I wrote to Srila Prabhupada. I said, but what work? I quoted that, and then I said, but what work are they doing? Your godbrothers only revealed that they are Kanishta Adhikaris without any world vision of this movement. They have no manifest Vaishnava compassion of which you are the embodiment. So he replied to that. I did not expect, in fact, I was taking a risk because Srila Prabhupada did not like his disciples to criticize his godbrothers. That was a policy. So I was taking a risk. But I was upset because I didn't like the idea that we were being thanked for something we didn't do. So he wrote back this is a long letter, several pages, has to do with my monthly report, like I said, but the main part here is what I wanted to read. He says, this is April 2nd, 1974. He said, you're right about Sridhar Maharaj's genuineness, but in my opinion, he is the best of the lot. He is my old friend. At least he executes the regulative principles of devotional service. I do not wish to discuss about the activities of my godbrothers, but it is a fact they have no life for preaching work. All are satisfied with a place for a residence in the name of a temple. They engage disciples to get foodstuff by transcendental devices and eat and sleep. They have no idea or brain how to broadcast the cult of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. My Guru Maharaj used to lament many times for this reason. And he thought that if one at least had understood the principle of preaching, then his mission would achieve success. In the latter days of my Guru Maharaj, he was very disgusted. Actually, he left this world earlier. Otherwise, he would have continued to live for more years. Still, he requested his disciples to form a strong governing body for preaching the cult of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, to form a strong governing body. But Sridhar Maharaj is responsible for disobeying this order of Guru Maharaj, and he and two others who are already dead, unnecessarily thought that there must be one Acharya. If Guru Maharaj could have seen someone who was qualified at that time to be Acharya, he would have mentioned. because on the night before he passed away, he talked of so many things, but never mentioned an acharya. His idea was acharya was not to be nominated amongst the governing body. He openly said, you make a GBC and conduct the mission. So his idea was not amongst the members of GBC who would come out. So his idea was amongst the members of the GBC who would come out successful as self-effulgent acharya would be automatically selected. So Sridhar Maharaj and his two associate gentlemen unauthorizedly selected one acharya, and later it proved to be a failure. The result is now everyone is claiming to be acharya, even though they may be Kanishta Adhikari with no ability to preach. In some of the camps, the acharya is being changed 3 times in a year. Therefore, we may not commit the same mistake in our ISKCON camp. Actually, amongst my godbrothers, no one is qualified to become acharya. So it is better not to mix with my godbrothers very intimately, because instead of inspiring our students and disciples, they may sometimes pollute them. This attempt was made previously by them, especially Madhava Maharaj and Tirtha Maharaj and Ban Maharaj, but somehow or other, I saved the situation. This is going on. We should be very careful about them and not mix with them. This is my instruction to you all. They cannot help us in our movement, but they are very competent to harm our natural progress. So we must be very careful about them. Very clear. And then I had taken an opportunity to go to Buffalo, New York to establish a center there. And one of the reasons I went was there was a possibility of speaking to students at the University of Buffalo. So what happened was that I got a chance to teach a course. At first it was a course, just a course granted by the college, you see, because that time it was a Vietnam War, and the students were very, very adamantly against the war, and they were demonstrating on the campus. At one point, they burned down an outbuilding. So the administration was trying to pacify the students, so they allowed them to have an experimental college course and teach anything they wanted with any teacher they wanted. So someone suggested, because I was there giving an experimental class on Krishna consciousness, someone said, so why don't you do that? So I signed up, and some 58, 59 students signed up for the course, and they could get 3 credits for it. So it was a accredited course. So Srila Prabhupada wrote back. I told him about this. He said, please accept my blessings. I received your letter December 15, 1968, and have noted the contents with much satisfaction and encouragement. This accredited course, which you have obtained at the University of Buffalo, is a very nice breakthrough for Lord Chaitanya's movement in the West. Please do this very carefully and seriously. And I'm sure that Lord Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu will give you intelligence from within to successfully execute this new important project. He was enthused. If he was enthused, I was enthused. I'm supposed to be enthusing him. So it was mutual. One is supposed to be enthusing the spiritual master, and the spiritual master is always trying to enthuse his followers. So Srila Prabhupada was very pleased. Why? Because his book, I went, before the course was approved, I had to go to a faculty committee meeting and show them my textbook, which was, lo and behold, Srila Prabhupada's Bhagavad Gita, as it is. But I didn't have the book. I just had the cover that was sent to me. It hadn't gone to press yet. So I passed the cover around, and it was being introduced by Macmillan Company, which was a big company. Everybody knew Macmillan Company. And so that really was the clincher. I had met with the chairman of that committee a few weeks before that. We had gotten along very well. He was there conducting that meeting, and he made sure that was passed around to everybody. And it was quite an impressive cover. That's all I had was the cover. The book didn't arrive for several months after that, actually. So I wanted to mention that. Srila Prabhupada was and that was the beginning of college preaching. Before that, there was nothing really happening. But after that, when it became clear that college students were really interested in what Srila Prabhupada had to say, and some of them wanted to be initiated by him, word got around. So a lot of preaching began in the college campuses. And it was a big move because it increased the numbers and the quality of Srila Prabhupada's followers. Now, this is in reply to my monthly report on March 30th, 1972. So this is what he says. I'm considering to fill up the 2 GBC posts which are now vacant. One by the resignation of Krishna Das, and one by Tamal Krishna Goswami taking sannyas. I'm considering several persons, amongst them Keshava and Giriraj. I shall let you know when I have decided on these points. Meanwhile, you may inform the other GBC members that for the time being, there should be no change within the society, that they shall manage as before. So that was Srila Prabhupada's line to me about the problem he had. Because Tamal had to be replaced. Took sannyas, and there were no sannyasis on GBC. The GBC wasn't, duties were entirely different than the traveling sannyasis, which were to travel and preach to different temples all around the world, wherever they could be heard. The GBC was to manage and often involved intimate activities with Grihastha ashram, including the ladies. This is not appropriate occupation for a sannyasi. So we all understood why that happened. Unfortunately, Tamal Krishna refused to leave the GBC. This is a kind of amazing to me, and still is when I think about it, how anyone could refuse anything, Srila Prabhupada said. But Tamal was a special case. He did that on a number of occasions, and Srila Prabhupada made adjustments. I mean, I wouldn't have had the nerve to even consider not doing what Srila Prabhupada said, but that's the way it went. Srila Prabhupada was very accommodating. Everyone should understand how much trouble Srila Prabhupada went through to receive anyone, no matter how mixed their motives were. He looked at the good part that came to him, and he had a duty to help them in Krishna consciousness. He had a duty to explain to them about Krishna consciousness. So that included everybody. This is from January 9, 1975. Regarding the controversy about book distribution techniques, you are right. Our occupation must be honest. Everyone should adore our members as honest. If we do something which is deteriorating to the popular sentiments of the public in favor of our movement, that is not good. Somehow or other, we should not become unpopular in the public eye. These dishonest methods must be stopped. It is hampering our reputation all over the world. Money collected for feeding people in India should be collected under the name of ISKCON Food Relief, not any other name. And every farthing of that money must be sent to India. Or better yet, buy food grains here or there and ship them here, and we will be distributing it. But every farthing collected for that purpose must be used for that purpose. So that was part of the books were being distributed in large numbers. But some of the devotees was using this idea, they're collecting for foods distribution in India. Srila Prabhupada didn't like that. The other thing, which I wrote to him about, step by step explaining the change up. The change up. Now, the change up was very popular because it was insisted upon by Trikulari, who was called once by Srila Prabhupada the incarnation of book distribution, which went to his head for sure. And he was teaching everybody what he thought was the best method, which was a cheating method. And the method was passed all around the movement. And devotees who were doing it didn't like doing it. And so when they heard this, they were greatly relieved. But it was very important because people were getting a bad impression. In some cases, devotees were being kicked out of airports or other places which were legal, and they were there legally. And the authorities, the police department and others, they knew it. Everybody knew it. There are many philosophical points Srila Prabhupada made to me.
Name one.
Well, I did before, but this, I mean, I could go and pick anyone out, but they were all, he was explaining very basic because, I was asking basic questions. And because I was a new person, the movement was only started this a few years earlier, 66. And so where's the one that had so many answers? Yeah, I had, this is the one I wrote, and this is part of this is before the GBC started. So in 69, I was writing all kinds of questions. This 9 questions, this particular letter. This is dated March 1969. It said, regarding your questions, the spark soul has certainly form, which means hands, feet, and so on. This we learn from Bhagavad Gita. The body is described there as vasamsi, which means dress. So unless one has got originally hands and legs, how the dress, coat and pants and shirt take such form? Therefore, the spirit soul has original form. When he is in the material energy, the dress is evolved materially. And when he is in the spiritual energy, the dress is evolved spiritually. This is also not very difficult to understand, as our students, before coming to my contact, he was supposed to be materially dressed, attached to sense gratification. And after devoting himself in Krishna consciousness, he is generally developing a spiritual dress. That means attached to satisfying the senses of the Supreme. That's the answer to the first question. I think it's pretty clear. Second question, how the impersonalists mistake the difference between the soul and the supersoul. The mistake is due to their obstinacy. The impersonalists masquerade as Vedantists, but actually they are defying Vedanta. In the Vedanta, it is clearly said the original source of all being. In the Upanishads, it is clearly said that the Supreme is the supreme being of all living beings. So all the Vedas affirm vehemently that the supersoul and the soul are two different identities, although qualitatively one. But the impersonalists say they accept Vedanta as authority, but they go against the verdict of the Vedas. Lord Chaitanya has depicted this impersonalism class of men as more dangerous than the Buddhists. The Buddhists plainly declare that they do not accept the authority of the Vedas, but the impersonalists masquerade themselves as followers of the Vedas. But actually, they are hidden Buddhists. The idea is, if a person is actually fast asleep, it is easier to awake him. But if a person pretends to be sleeping but actually is awake, then it is very difficult to wake him up. So from all Shastric point of view, the living entity and the Supreme Lord or the Supreme Living Entity are always simultaneously different and one. They are one in quality and different in quantity. This simple thing is understandable by any common man, but these impersonalists, they will simply invent jugglery of words to mislead innocent people. Therefore, Lord Chaitanya has warned not to associate with these impersonalist Mayavadis because they will spoil one's life by diverting one from devotional service. So a lot of these questions came in to Srila Prabhupada, but I'm sure that if you went through his volumes of letters received from other devotees, you would find also other questions. And I have other letters where I ask questions also. Even after the book was out, I still had questions.
We'll save that for another time.
Yeah.
I'll go to Srila Prabhupada.
Srila Prabhupada.